Garrett Blevins here with the results of the 2014 USAPL Raw Nationals. Ended up with a 1719 total, which is 780 kilograms. That's 71 pounds up from my last total in November. However, that even though it was a PR of 71 pounds, it was a lot less than I expected. Um, Really what it boils down to is there were two main factors for why I underperformed. One was I drove out to the competition. I thought that about 48 hours would be enough time for my legs to recover, but that was not the case. Really, my legs, both on the squat and the deadlift, did not show up. And on all three of my bench press attempts, my lower back was cramped up. Every time I would go back and arch, it would cramp. And I know that that was because of the drive out there. Additionally, I came in, I was looking actually at some of the 220 records that I thought I had a shot at in this competition, and so the unofficial records, I thought I would take a stab at those and decided to come in at 220, even though I could have weighed up to 231 pounds. However, I actually came in at 215, completely undershot. I realized that I lose a lot of weight when I travel. And so that put me pretty far down body weight wise, which I believe affected both my squat and my bench on top of the driving. Regardless, I was still able to have PRs in all of my lifts, but ended up doing about 93% of the best total that I've done in the gym. And so that may seem like, 93% is pretty good, which in general, not so bad. But when you're at a national competition where, you know, 6 people in their deadlifts all have a shot at winning the competition, 93% just isn't going to be good enough. You'll see I'm not able to break the floor with, I think this is about 715 pounds, not able to break the floor with it twice, and was pretty frustrated about it. Really discouraging after 9 months of training with this in mind. So, as most of you know, I end with a Bible verse, and this really made me think about Samson, which is somewhat unsurprising. The Lord enabled Samson to perform these incredible feats of strength to deliver the Israelites from their oppressors, who were the Philistines at the time. But the problem with Samson was that he was under a Nazirite vow. And what that meant was there's a few stipulations, but a Nazirite is one who's devoted to the Lord. And part of that is he was not supposed to have his hair cut. So Samson, he's pretty much a man's man, doesn't really do a lot of things right, gets pretty angry at times, is driven by his emotions and his desires. And so he's at the time visiting a prostitute, and she's been kind of contracted by the Philistines to figure out the secret of his strength. And finally, after a bunch of prodding and complaining, and she tricks him. Her name's Delilah. She tricks Samson into telling her the secret to his strength, and she cuts off his hair. But the thing is that Samson, after his hair had been cut off and the Philistines come upon him in this trap, has no idea that his strength has left him. He goes out and thinks that he's going to beat up the Philistines like he has time and time again. He's completely unaware that the power of God has left him. And so he underperformed, and they gouged out his eyes and made him a slave, and he had to push around a giant millstone and grind grain. And that's pretty discouraging, I would say. I think he probably had a lot of regrets because he realized his actions caused his circumstances. Well, as I was thinking about Samson, I thought about my own performance, where I came in expecting to do very well, and ultimately did not have my strength show up with me. And I was underprepared, and I didn't realize that my strength had left me. However, I also, when I was talking to the people in the meet, specifically in my flight, realized that I was the most inexperienced lifter there. And all of the decisions I'd made in my training and in my preparation were all made with the amount of knowledge and skill that I had at the time. This has been a tremendous learning experience. I'm extremely excited coming up to the next Raw Nationals. I believe it's going to be in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And so I'm going to do things differently, but I'm excited. I'm disappointed because of the outcome of the events, but I don't really have a lot of regret because I think that I performed to the best of my knowledge. But when you're competing with lifters with tremendous experience, Nick Tyluki came out with the victory again. He's done that I don't know how many years in a row, both in I believe geared and raw lifting, has been the national champion. And he has tremendous experience, tremendous consistency. And that's really going to be one of the focuses that I have in my training moving forward, is to become a more advanced lifter. I'm very new to the sport. This was my third meet. It was my first nationals, and it was a great learning experience. Ultimately, even though I was very disappointed in my performance, it was still a PR. It still caps off the year with 160 pounds of strength increase. And that's something to be proud about when I started with an elite total and have been able to add 160 pounds onto that, even though it wasn't my best. So I came out with 6th place, and so that was pretty good in my opinion, and I'm happy about that, and that's something that I'll take with me, and I got a little bit of a fire underneath me to do better next year. So hope you all are doing well wherever you're at, and I hope that when you underperform and when inevitably you come up on those times of disappointment, that you'll remember that those are learning experiences and that there is a future and a hope beyond that, that you're not crushed by your defeats. That's one of the great things about powerlifting, is every powerlifter fails. We all miss reps eventually. We all underperform. We'll all bomb out at some point if we're competing. But the willingness to go out there and actually try, to actually do something that you care about, is very important. I think it was Lane Norton in his review of the Raw Nationals that was talking about the anxiety and kind of the jitters that comes up before competition. And different athletes perceive those different ways. Some people say they don't get those, but what Lane Norton said is they do get them, they just don't perceive them as a negative. It's being alive. That feeling, that churning in your stomach, those butterflies, that's being alive. For me, something I realized was the sense of disappointment and frustration and anger. That was being alive, because I cared about something enough to put it out there on the line. And even though it didn't work out the way I wanted, I was still happy because I was willing to take the chance and actually invest in something and try. So I'm happy that I went. I'm not super excited about my performance, but I am satisfied with what I did because it's where my experience level was. But I'm definitely going to learn more and come back and hopefully do a lot better the next time I go into competition. So appreciate you all watching. Sorry for the delay. I was out in the mountains recovering, doing some fishing with my family, and had a really good time up there. So I have been away from the internet, but hope you enjoyed the video and appreciate all the support. Blessings.